Hi y'all, I'm Amber and today I'm going to be doing my weekly wrap up. This week I was able to finish 2 books. I ended up putting one of the books I was reading to the side and I am currently reading one book. I'll be also starting another which I will mention at the end. Let's start with the first book that I finished this week, and that is Americanah by, I'll put her name right here because I have a feeling I'm going to butcher her name. This book is about Efelu and Obinze. It's supposed to be a star-crossed lover type story. Efelu and Obinze fall in love in secondary school. They both are from Nigeria. But when she is starting university, she ends up going to America. Their lives end up on different paths, and he gets married while she becomes a paid blogger, and their whole lives are completely different from one another. But she decides to move back to Nigeria, and their feelings for each other are reignited. Americanah was a very frustrating book to read. The main reason why I have issues with this book is because the story that this book is supposed to be about ends up being an afterthought. Adichie writes this novel in almost vignette style. She introduces characters we'll never see again as platforms to talk about the class and race issues that she discusses in very detailed manner throughout this book. Not only that, she overgeneralizes everything. She generalizes America, she generalizes how we react and how we treat people of a different race. And that in itself is very frustrating because we're not all like that, and it's really wrong and disrespectful to everybody who's reading your book to kind of say you're like that. And it was really hard for me to stomach that. Also, the author, comes off like there's only one right conclusion when it comes to the issues of race and class, and it is not that simple. It's just, there's never always gonna be a right or wrong answer to it, and when a reader who's reading this book comes out feeling like she's saying that everybody has to agree with me and that I'm right, you're wrong kind of mentality, it's tasteful, and it really doesn't make me appreciate what she's trying to say throughout this book. Not only that, she comes off very anti-America to me with how she's always talking bad about us. And I get that we have made mistakes, but every country does. We're all humans here, so I don't really appreciate that she puts Efelu, who I feel is basically her, on a pedestal. Efelu comes off as very self-righteous, very judgmental all the way throughout this book. She sees herself above everybody else, and it affects the relationships that she's in. It affects the relationships with her and her parents, with her friends, and even with the romantic relationships she goes in and out of throughout her time in America. Even when people point out her own faults, she'll turn it around and talk about something that's wrong with them, even though what she's talking about is so superficial. It's not something that it compares to what they're pointing out to her, and she just can't take a criticism very well. All in all, I like flawed characters. I like when an author can make a character feel real and human, but Adichie makes Efelu into a very flawed character that never grows, that never realizes her mistakes and changes and works it out to become a better person. I feel like Adichie is saying that there's really no faults, although she keeps making her into this very human, very flawed person, and it was really hard for me to have any empathy towards Efelu because of that. Now when it comes to relationship with Efelu and Obinze, when they were in secondary school and we first saw the relationship, I really liked it because it was beautiful and you felt like they loved each other. But when Efelu leaves for America and she goes back, the relationship goes all wrong. Not only is Obinze married, I feel that Efelu just wants sex, and Obinze, he wants a real relationship. But then he goes to his wife to tell her that he's done with the marriage, and he uses Efelu as an excuse, which is so wrong, and his wife even points that out. You know, you don't end a relationship because of sex, you know, and that's basically what he was using as an excuse. It was very flimsy, it fell flat, and their whole relationship was so awfully wrong, and there was no resolution to the relationship when the book ended. And as I said, the whole romance, the whole basic story that was supposed to be there felt like an afterthought. And then Benze turned into a love interest instead of a main protagonist, which I felt from the very beginning he was supposed to be. We never really saw any of his perspectives, very little of him, and that was a huge disappointment to me, because when I read his perspectives, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it much better than Epinlou's. As I said, very disappointing, because I thought this was supposed to be about them more than a DJ getting on her high horse to talk about issues that, yes, are very important, but when she goes at it in the way she did, is very wrong, and it's going to be a turn off to a lot of people who can see past the revolutionary writing, because this is something that I feel not a lot of people get in their books, where they talk about race and class issues, and she's very forceful about it, so it's hard to kind of get past that. For me, I felt Adichie was very close to being disrespectful to the people who live in America and people who aren't like that at all. Also, the fact that this was supposed to be a romance novel that turned into a pedestal for her to preach on was very, very disappointing, because you don't have to sacrifice one for the other. And if she wanted it to be all about that, I felt that she should have just written an essay collection or something of that sort. I would have appreciated it a little bit better, but I definitely probably would not appreciate the tone that she is handing out to us throughout. In the end, the only thing that I actually really liked about this book was her writing style. I fell for it right away, and if I end up being willing, I will definitely check out another of her books, but right now I am very hesitant to even try another of hers. This book gets 2 stars. Let me just say before I move on that I understand people liking this book, liking the subject matter, because there were issues that she talked about that I knew about, but it's never really talked about, and I understand why people appreciate it, because these are subjects that need to be talked about. We need to remember where we came from and try to better ourselves, and I get why people like how forceful she is in that sense, but for me, I just had real issue with the way she, in a way, bashed America. That's all I'm going to say. The next book that I finished is Anne's House of Dreams, the 5th book in the Anne of Green Gables novels. This is by Ella Montgomery. I am not going to talk about this one at all. You all know how much I love this series, and that I am continuing to reread them. This book gets 5 stars. As I said at the beginning, I put aside a book, and that is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 2nd book in the Mistborn trilogy. I liked the first book a lot, as you all know, but this book wasn't as forgivable as the first book was when it came to how much the book was just basically build up to a end that was supposed to be shocking and amazing, and I felt this coming off the same way, even worse than the first book. I also found Elon annoying, because this was supposed to be a year after the events of the first book, and yet he still acts like he's been a king for a day. And that really frustrates me, because for one, I think Elon would be smart enough to realize that he has no clue how to be a king and that he needs an advisor. I would think that he would have found one. And the fact that Elon and Ben's relationship still feels like they haven't been together for a year was really weird to me, and I know that Brandon Sanderson wanted us to feel like we weren't missing anything. He didn't want that time gap feel, but instead he made me feel like I'm supposed to believe one thing, but it's been a year. There's going to be changes no matter what, so let that be. And I just wanted more from Elon and Vin, and I just didn't get that. I understood a lot of Vin's doubts and questions, but not when it came to Elon's love. A year has passed and you still question it. I understand her questioning him with maybe using her. That much I understand, but the whole obsessive, oh, does Elin love me thing was a little annoying. And I completely lost interest once I got 50% through. I'm very disappointed because I actually like the story and it's very interesting to me, so I really want to finish this series. I will be putting this to the side. I will go back to it when I am ready to. The book that I'm currently reading is Here on Earth by Alice Hoffman. This one is about March Murray and her daughter Gwen, who go back to her hometown where Judith Dale has died, and she's going back to for her funeral. She basically raised March, and this has very much a Wuthering Heights feel to it. As it said in the synopsis that I missed when I read it the first time, Alice Hoffman is trying here to make this book into the themes of Wuthering Heights. Join it. I am 30% through. I should be done with this by Tuesday, hopefully. The book that I will be starting this week is Anne of Ingleside by Ellen Montgomery. This is the 6th book in the Anne of Gable novels. I'm not going to talk about what it's about or anything, but as I said before, I am rereading this and I love these books so much. That was my week of reading. Tell me down below what you've been reading. Have you read any of these books? Tell me down below what you thought of them yourselves. Let's be respectful because I know some people are going to have very much big issues with what I had to say about Americanah, but please remember that we all have our own opinions and our own thoughts on things. So if you're going to tell me your own opinion about Americanah, please keep that in mind and let's just enjoy our time talking. Thank you all so much for watching and keep warm.